Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning, everyone. I'm sorry that we cannot have these lectures synchronously, as we have to follow the order from the universe that we need to have to respect our friends that are involved, affected by the flooding in West Malaysia. Okay, well, by the way, I am Dr. Natida Rami. I am the medical lecturer in our faculty. I teach anatomy, but well, for this lecture, I exclusively teach physiology too. Okay, today we're going to learn the anatomy and physiology of the musculoskeletal system, the musculoskeletal system. Okay, the objectives for today's session will be, first is we're going to learn about the anatomy and physiology of muscles and the skeleton, and some applicable application or the knowledge that are related to the muscles and skeleton in the field of health. Okay, before we start, I'm going to introduce to you the muscle tissue. I know you know this already, I hope. Well, we have two kinds of muscular tissue. One is striated and the other one is non-striated. The striated skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles, and the smooth muscle. Okay, let's go to the striated muscle first. Okay, this is striated muscles. They are muscles that have cross striation and are mostly attached to tendons or bone. In case of the skeletal muscles, while for cardiac muscles, it is a specialized type of striated muscle, which is only found in the lining of the heart. This is actually the same picture. This is the striation of the skeletal muscle. See this? Let's see this and close. Zooming in, this is the skeletal muscle fibers that has the striation. Okay, and then this is the cardiac muscles. They are also have striation, but they are specialized type of muscles. Okay, the non-striated muscles are the type of muscle which do not show any cross striation. They don't have any striation. Okay, they are mostly situated in the lining. Okay, remember the lining of inner organs, and they are involuntarily moved. We cannot control our smooth muscle contraction. Okay. Okay, go to the skeletal muscle in details. Okay, skeletal muscles, they are voluntary. Obviously, we can control the contraction of our muscle. For instance, if we want to walk, we are sitting for like 30 minutes and we want to go to the toilet. So in order for us to go to the toilet, we have to contract our muscle so that we can get up and we can walk towards the toilet. So we can definitely control our skeletal muscle movements. So that is why they are called voluntary muscles. And they're attached to bones because they are going to move this bone in order for us to move. For a movement to be produced, we have to move the muscle and bone. The muscle contract and movement of the bone is achieved. Okay, so they attach a muscle attached to a bone, to tendon, a structure called tendon. This is a really tough connective tissue. Okay, muscle tissue is surrounded by and supporting and protecting bands of fibrous connective tissue called fascia. Okay, actually, this is outside the epimysium. The fascia is outside the epimysium. This fiber of fascia is a really tough kind of connective tissue. They are really, really tough, so that they cover and protect our muscle from any injury. And beneath the fascia, there is epimysium. It's a very loose kind of connective tissue. Okay, epimysium. Excuse me. The plentiful nerve and blood supplies, which an active muscle requires, are located within the fascia. Okay. Okay, non-striated muscles are the types of muscle which don't show any cross-striation. Actually, I show you this picture already. Okay, this. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's go to the skeletal muscles. There are about 650 to 800 skeletal muscles in human body. Okay, the muscles are attached to bone via a structure called tendon. Each muscle has thousands of muscle fibers. Okay, this is one muscle fibers. The muscle fibers, this is the muscle fibers. It's muscle fibers, and each muscle fiber have one myofibril. And a bundle of muscle fibers collectively called fascicle. Fascicle. They are covered by the perimysium. Remember, our one whole muscles are covered by epimysium. One whole bundle of muscle fibers, which is called fascicle, are covered by the perimysium. Muscle fibers are covered by the endomysium connective tissue. Each muscle fibers are covered by endomysium connective tissue layer. Okay. Well, the sacrolemma. So remember, our muscle fascicle is covered by the perimysium. One whole muscle is covered by epimysium. One whole fascicle is covered by the perimysium, and our muscle fibers is covered by endomysium. So epi, peri, and endomysium. They are a kind of very loose connective tissue layer. Okay. Please don't get confused with the sacrolemma. The sacrolemma, they are the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane, a sheet of plasma membrane that covering the muscle fiber, each muscle fiber, or sacrolemma. Okay, this is a skeletal muscle fiber. This is the fascicle. Oh, this is a myofibril. Sorry, this is a myofibril. The skeletal muscle fibers is surrounded by plasma membrane called sacrolemma. Okay, sorry, this one, the sacrolemma, which contains sacroplasm, the cytoplasm of the muscle cells. A muscle fiber is composed of many myofibril. So you can see many myofibers within one muscle fiber, which contains sacromeres. Myofibrils which contains sacromeres. Okay, this sacrolemma, sacrolemma, sacroplasm, and sacromere. So this is the sacromere. The sacromeres, they are arranged in this kind of band that has thick filament, thin filament, and because of the arrangement of one sacromere, the cross striation in the muscles is achieved. Okay, this the presence of sacromere make the muscles striation striated appearance. Okay, this is how the muscle contraction processes look like. Okay, actually, it's in the beginning there will be a nerve impulse transmitted through the neuromuscular junction, and this because of this connection, again, there will be release of calcium within the muscle tissue. Plenty of calcium will bind to troponin at the thin filament of the sarcomere. Remember, we have the sarcomere, we have thin filament. Because of this binding, calcium binding to troponin, this will expose the myosin binding site. So again, with the calcium, they bind to the troponin, exposing the myosin binding site. Okay. And this exposure will cause cross-bridging formation, whereby the attachment of myosin head to actin occur. This is the myosin head, and then they attach to the actin, which is located in the this filament. The ATP which bind to myosin head or split to myosin binds myosin ATPase into ADP and pi. The energy, this produces energy and causes the myosin head to sliding the filament towards the center of the sarcomere. Okay. And begin. Okay, number one. Somehow this video is actually they show it not in order. Okay, I begin with the. Okay, this is the neuromuscular junction. When the nerve impulse reach this neuromuscular junction, they will release neurotransmitter so that the calcium will be released into the muscle tissue, and the calcium will bind to the troponin, causing the myosin exposure. Actin binding site is exposed because of the binding of the calcium and the troponin. Okay. Calcium bind to the troponin. It will expose the actin binding site. Okay, binding site. Because of this exposure, the myosin head attached to the actin binding site, and because of this, myosin ATPase will act towards the ATP that is present in the myosin head, and this will split the ATP into ADP and pi phosphate, and this will release the energy. Because of this release of energy, the energy moving the head of myosin head to move the filament toward the center of sarcomere. Okay. Calcium bind with troponin, exposing the active binding site. Okay, because of this, the head of myosin attached to the binding site, and by the action of ATPase, they change the ATP into ADP and pi. This will release the energy that causing the myosin head to slide the filament towards the center of sarcomere. Okay. Okay, after exposure of the actin binding site, when the calcium is binding to the troponin, the head of the myosin will attach to the actin, and at the same time, ATPase possess the the ATP, change the ATP into ADP and in phosphate that produce energy. So the muscle is actually move or contract towards the center of the sarcomere. After that, this is how they contract. Okay. So the muscle, this is what sarcomere. The filament is move towards the center of the sarcomere. Okay, the increase in muscle mass and cross-sectional area of the muscle is known as hypertrophy. This can be achieved by progressively increasing workload on the respective muscle. Okay, so that's why when you want to increase your muscle bulk, you have to exercise. Okay, increase weight bearing exercise. Okay, so that's why that's so that you can have your six packs appearance, and you can have your tricep or bicep muscle enlarged, as I call it, as hypertrophy. Okay, there are some cases of pathological hypertrophy, mainly involved in the cardiac muscle, when someone with somehow have cardiac failure. Their heart muscles, they need to pump more blood so that the blood will be able to circulate throughout our body. So the muscle work harder than its usual weight. So because of this, they will have the cardiac hypertrophy. So the heart is enlarged. Okay. Especially the heart wall. And reduced muscle mass is known as atrophy. Is due to two conditions. One is aging, which is normal, physiological, and another one is pathological, cachexia. We call this as cachexia. So someone with, for example, very chronic, a very end stage of cancer, they will have cachexia. Okay, then the muscles mass become less and less as they use all the energy that are present in that ATP source of energy from the protein that are present in the muscle. They call cachexia. Okay, this is the thing that I informed you just now. Muscle atrophy and muscle hypertrophy. Okay, now we go to the second objective is of the skeletal system. So this is our skeletal system. There are bones that support our body. They support our body. They form a hard framework that support and anchor the soft organs into the body. Number one, support. They also protect surround organs such as brain and spinal cord. They are protecting our brain and spinal cord, which are considered as the most crucial organ in our body. And movement, that allows for muscle attachment. Therefore, the bones are used as levers. And storage for minerals and lipids are stored in the bone material. And blood cell formation within the bone. There is bone marrow, which is responsible for blood cell production. Okay, so they support, protect, for movement, for storage, and blood cell formation. Okay, these are all the accessory structures that are related to the musculoskeletal system. Okay, typically the muscle, the accessory that's connected to the joint. Okay, what is joint at first part? Joint is actually a point of where two bones are connected, two or more bones are connected. So like in this picture, this is a knee joint. What is knee to it? Okay, the knee joint is made of the femur up here and tibia. femur and tibia. And then the accessory structures surrounding the knee, the tendon. What is tendon? Is the connective tissue that attaching the muscles of the bone. Yes, tendon. And then you have the ligament that connecting the bone to bone. Okay, bone to bone is connected by ligament. The cartilage. This cartilage is covering the of the bone part that has the direct contact with bone that need to be covered by the cartilage. So this will reduce friction between bones that are involved in this what we call this joint. Okay. Axial skeleton. And we have two types of skeleton, the axial skeleton and appendicular skeleton. Axial skeleton, you can see in this picture, they colored light, cream ke chocolate company, okay? Okay, they are skulls and bones that support it. The skull, the spine, okay, the sternum, and vertebra, ribs, okay, they are part of this axial skeleton, whereby the appendicular skeleton are the limbs, the pelvic, and all this scapula and all that. Okay, for the exoskeleton there are 80 bones, and for appendicular skeleton there are 126 bones. This is big bones, right? There are many bones, small bones actually present in our body. Okay, features of a long bone. Okay, there are many types of long bone, types of bone. There are long bone, there are flat bone, there are accessory bones, and okay, let's learn the long bone here. Okay, the long bone. This is the long bone, the tulang panjang. Okay, where we can find this long bone is our femur, our humerus, the bones that form our limb. Okay, the long one. Okay, the humerus, the radius, ulna, tibia, fibula, and the femur. Okay. Okay, a long bone contains epiphysis. This part is called epiphysis. Okay, diaphysis. Epiphysis. Okay. Epiphysis is defined as the ends of the bone. Okay, it's either proximal end or distal end. Okay, epiphysis. Diaphysis is the shaft or the bone of the bone which surround the medullary cavity. So within this there is medullary cavity. Articular cartilage, the cushion at the end. Remember, I talked about the knee joint just now. So there are articular cartilage that covering the bones that are involved in a certain joint. Okay, this allows for smooth movement. And then epiphyseal plate. Not in this picture. Okay, this is epiphyseal plate. It was made of cartilage, allowing for the growth of the bone. Okay, this one is only present in growing bone. Okay. Okay, this is a detailed structure of the long bone. You can have this periosteum, yeah, connective tissue outside the bone, the periosteum, and this is in the sorry, in the shaft of diaphysis. Okay, you can see the compact bone outside, and there is actually medullary cavity in here. And some of them have this spongy bone before the medullary cavity. Compact bone or spongy bone. That is pretty good. Joint is where the bones meet bone, ligament holds bone to bone, and the type of joints. There are so many kind of joint we have in our body. One is immovable, which is the skull. Actually, in between the skull is made of so many bones. Okay, there are flat type of bones. Okay, the frontal bone, the parietal, the facial bones, okay, and then what I call this, the temporal, okay, there are many bones that is making up one skull. So in each of the point of attachment of the skull, there is joint. There is a joint, okay? In growing baby, the joint is not yet fused, okay? They just merely a very dense connective tissue that connecting the, the bones, okay? For example, between the frontal bone and occipital bone, okay? So there is a connective tissue. So this joint is really important in baby because the brain is still growing. So they are growing in size. They're growing in size. So that's why in a case of a baby, this is a disease, okay, a condition where the joint is totally fused before it should fuse. Okay, the baby will have some deformity in the skull. Okay, so the skull, there used to be there was a, when we were baby, there was a joint. There was a joint. Okay, now it's no longer joint. Because they are all diffused with totally when we grow up. We are grown up. Okay, one is immovable, and second one is ball and socket. This is easy. Ball and socket, ball and socket. Hinge joint is knee. Pivot, sorry, pivot is between our first and second cervical vertebra. Okay, the first and second cervical vertebra, so that we can move our head. We can like geleng kepala. We can geleng kepala, right? Because of the pivotal joint. And then gliding, the vertebra is present in between the between the skull and the first cervical vertebra. There is gliding, and we can actually find other gliding type of joint in our wrist joint. Okay, so this is one of the commonest joint types is synovial joint. Okay, synovial joint. They are the most mobile joints in our body. It has synovial cavity. It contains synovial fluid, which is really important as the preparation for the smooth movement of joint. Okay. Synovial fluid is important as lubrication for the smooth movement of the joint. Okay, bone marrow in what up there in the bone marrow? Okay, if you know about the bone marrow, that if you remember about the bone marrow that produce blood, okay, there are actually two types of bone marrow. One is yellow bone marrow, and the other one is red bone marrow. The bone marrow in the medullary cavity. Remember, the medullary cavity is the hollow inside the bone. This is known as medullary cavity. The red bone marrow and the yellow bone marrow are present in the medullary cavity. The red bone marrow and the yellow bone marrow are present in the medullary cavity. In adults, red bone marrow is in cavities of spongy bones and epiphysis of some long bones. Okay. Okay, remember, this is the spongy bones that contain the red marrow. This is site of where the blood and blood derivatives being produced. the blood stem cells, the red, which later become the red blood cell, white blood cells, and the platelets. Okay. Bone development. Initial skeleton of cartilage in infants. Initial skeleton of cartilage in infants. So this means, okay, sorry, I didn't check. Our baby, our newborn baby, the skeleton, some of the bone is still in the form of cartilage. Okay, so that's newborn baby is really fragile. Okay, they are made of cartilage, and some of the bone is still made of cartilage. Okay, but as they grow, the cartilage will be replaced by the bone. Okay, this process is where the cartilage is being replaced by the osteoblast. There are more than 300 bones at birth because of the cartilage. Babies have more bones because, for instance, okay, if we have our femur, at the end of that epiphysis, and the shaft is connected by a cartilage. So this make long bone into 3 bone. So later in life, and this whole bone fuse to become 1 bone. Okay, always growing and breaking down. Okay, this is the osteoblast form new bone cell, osteoclast break bone cells down, osteocytes is mature bone cells. Okay, you can see this picture. Okay, this is osteoblast. Okay, osteoblast, new bone cell. Okay. They will later will become the osteocyte, the mature bone cells. Okay, in elderly, osteoclast is whereby the bone cell is being breakdown in order for us to get the calcium into the bloodstream. Okay, bone ossification is the process of how our bone develop. There are 2 types of bone ossification. One is intramembranous ossification, and another one is endochondral ossification. Intramembranous ossifications, they directly convert the mesenchymal tissue into bones. For example, the flat bone of the skull. Okay. The rupture from the mesenchyme, they directly form the bone. Endochondral ossification is whereby the mesenchyme form into cartilage, okay, which later being replaced by the bone. So this is what I call endochondral ossification. Chondral means connective tissue of cartilage. The intramembranous, they directly from the mesenchyme. Example for intramembranous skull, endochondral bone. Okay. Bone and calcium. So 99% of calcium is found in bone. Only one bone in teeth. Okay, teeth is actually one of our bone. Yeah? So 99% of calcium is found in the bone. Okay, only 1% in blood, muscle, and other tissue. But I tell you, calcium is really important in many physiological events like impulse conduction, muscle contraction, hormone regulation, and many more. So calcium is really important for our body. So in case of when we have too much high calcium in our body, and what happens if we have too low calcium in our body? So when the calcium in blood level is high, okay, this will stimulate the the release of calcitonin from the thyroid gland. So the calcitonin will stimulate the calcium that are lingering in the bloodstream, okay, to deposit into the bone. Some of them will be released through urine. Because our kidney don't want to take the calcium up, so it will be released in urine. So these two mechanisms will make the calcium level into its ideal point, ideal line, okay? So which is about 10 milligram per 100 ml of blood calcium level. But okay, this is in case of high calcium. But when it is low, so when the calcium is low, really, really low, what happens? So the parathyroid gland will release the PTH, parathyroid hormone. This will stimulate the calcium release from bone, and then increase calcium reuptake from the kidney. Okay, activate the vitamin D so that our intestine increase the calcium in its level, and blood calcium level rises to the set point. So this is how the calcium blood level regulated. One is to calcitonin, to the parathyroid hormone. Okay, osteoporosis. Excuse me. Okay, osteoporosis is a condition whereby the bone density become reduced. Okay, this is the comparison between the healthy bone and the in osteoporotic bones. Okay, you can see so many, the pore is really, really rich. So bone resorption in this case is more than bone deposition. I mean, okay, the increased risk of fracture is present in the case of osteoporosis. Okay, especially it's involved the fracture of the vertebra and the hip fracture. Okay, the osteoporosis can happen in elderly because after menopause, the estrogen level will be drop. Okay, so it is somehow related to the calcium metabolism. So in order for us to prevent osteoporosis, we have to take like calcium, enough calcium in our diet. Okay, and vitamin D is also important in the calcium metabolism, and exercise is really important to prevent osteoporosis, because this really good deposit of calcium into the bone and stimulates new bone growth. Okay, smoking and alcohol. Okay, this will smoking and alcohol need to be stopped because it will actually interfere with our bone metabolism. Okay. Okay, this is the last part of my lecture. Okay, traditional massage or root. Okay, this involves our muscles. Okay, a massage will have to stimulate an increase in blood flow. Nutrients such as calcium and iron are carried within the blood, which are essential to keep muscles healthy and strong. Oxygen is also carried within the blood. Oxygen provides muscles with energy within the working muscle. So a massage simply stimulates the increase in blood flow in our muscles. Okay. Another one is chiropractic. Chiropractics. Chiropractics. A chiropractor is trained to make sure your body is functioning as optimal as possible by using spinal, the spine manipulation to relieve pain in your joint and muscles. This spinal adjustment will increase blood flow and nerve conductivity to the joint and muscle that are experiencing pain. So this is one example of chiropractic. Okay. Cervical spine. Okay. Scary. There is. They are they are expert in chiropractic. I think that's all for this lecture. I wish you all the best and thank you for attending to this lecture. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. You can email me anytime if you have any question. You can email directly WhatsApp me. All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.